So I want to just quickly run through the journey that I went through to get to here. When I left The Age and left all the 24/7 aspects of that job, I caught up with Glyn Davis, the Vice Chancellor at the University of Melbourne. He and I had got to know each other reasonably well. We had a coffee. I told him about my concern about the future of quality journalism. He shared those views. He gave me a desk at the university and suggested that I went to talk to a range of people, which I did. As I wandered around the university, it sort of really hit me then, and I should have probably known this years ago, that a university covering a universe of subjects is not that different to my newsroom. So the university campus is like a virtual newsroom. You have your faculty of business, of science, obviously the arts, the environment, and of course within that you have politics departments, etc. That's much like my own newsroom. But within that were specialists, really truly smart people who hadn't just spent a day looking at a subject, they'd spent an entire career. And a career not just at that university, but within their peer networks, which meant not just within Australia, but internationally. So if you have to write about a tsunami, you will be able to tap into everybody you know who studies the Earth's crust throughout the world. That's the knowledge network, the global knowledge network that they bring. And of course, we began to talk then about the fact that the university is a knowledge creator, whereas The Age, my old paper, is a knowledge disseminator. So I really wanted to bring these two ideas together. And the key thing was that I needed to find a new way for academics to actually be drawn back into the public arena. And the reason for that is that a lot of academics had just withdrawn. And the reason they'd withdrawn from the public arena was this. And Peter Doherty, some of you may know, he was Australian in the year, he's a professor of immunology, and his area of expertise is flu viruses. So every time a journalist would come in and interview him about a new strain of flu virus, he would give an answer, and at the end of it, he'd always think, I wonder how bad that is going to turn out tomorrow morning. He never ever thought, I'd better inform the public about a serious issue, is how bad will it turn out to be. And he was once bitten and twice shy. He just withdrew. And that's a real shame. And he withdrew because he said there's no point doing it. The only thing he would do is radio because he felt he could control that. So what I wanted to do was to find a new way of re-engaging. And he came up with actually the idea. He said, you know, Andrew, what I'd like you to do is instead of you sitting across the table from me, I'd like you to come and sit right here next to me. I'd like you to use your journalistic skills to help me get my knowledge out to the public in a way which is safe and credible. That was the aha moment for this project. Now, there's of course a big difference between journalists and academics. Journalists tend to want to tell you the bad news. So, bad weather outcomes, you know, so, okay, you know, there's another flood, there's another hurricane, and so on and so forth. Whereas the academic will try and understand those and give you some real context for changes in climate, and also offer potential solutions. So my quest really was to find a new way for academics and journalists to work together where we still try to understand that complexity, but try to offer something more. And by offering something more, what we wanted to do was put better integrity of information out there so that all of you can have better public conversations. And of course, into that, if we get that right, we actually do something really important for democratic society, because democratic society really does depend on high-grade information for you to be able to make up your minds on and act upon. So one of the things we needed to do to build collaboration and trust was to find a new way of actually working with academics. Not only to rebuild trust with them, but also with readers. It's not good enough just to assert we are going to give you trusted journalism. You actually have to demonstrate how you're going to do it. How are you going to do it that's different? As I said to you, Lord Levinson has come up with a whole list of codes of how journalists have got to work differently in the past. So that's why we built The Conversation. The Conversation is a not-for-profit organization. And the idea is to build a pipeline of information direct from our partners, which is the university and research sector, including CSIRO, direct to you, the public. So here's some of our codes of conduct. The first thing is you can only write for our site if you actually really know what you're talking about. So when you write for our site, you have to register. There's a registration process. We authenticate you. We need to know who you actually are. We need to know that you really do know what you're talking about, that you can demonstrate your expertise back to the reader. The second thing we want to do is we want to have full disclosure. Now, what I mean by that is you need to tell the reader who funds you, who funds your research. You need to tell the reader if you have any conflicts, because that's the most important thing. How often have you read pieces in newspapers or wherever else, and you have no idea where the person's come from or in whose interest they act? The third thing we want to do is have these codes of conduct. Now, codes of conduct we actually took on board were largely those which exist within the universities. And within the university, there are very strict rules around research and around issues such as plagiarism, collaboration, trust, respect. But also enshrined in all of that is academic freedom. And in academic freedom, that allows for a diversity of views. So all those are enshrined in the way that we work. But into every one of our contracts, including the one with University WA, is enshrined editorial independence. So this is an editorial project which is not, therefore, subject to PR or marketing objectives. This is a journalism project.